Shalom Yasharala, Peace Israel, Call Halayim La, Allahayanawa, Abanawa, Yahweh, Ba'asham, Yahushai, Ba'asham, Rakak Wadash. All praises to our power, our Father, Yahweh, in the name Yahushai, in the name of Holy Spirit. Double honor to our teachers, the elder apostles and elder bishops, Great Millstone, who still rule well. Peace and blessing to the hopeful elect of Israel, the house of David, beginning with the 140 and 4,000. Sicilians are Israelites. Sicilians are Israelites. Now, this video I'm doing right here is in response to a video the Captain Abaya did. All right. One of the elder brothers down here in the GMS Jackson, Mississippi camp. Brother goes by the YouTube channel name Ak of Judah 2011. Subscribe and be edified. All right. For those of you that may not be subscribed to his channel, subscribe to his channel, and be edified. Okay. But the brother did a video basically speaking about the Corleone family from the Godfather movie series, which me personally, I like those Godfather films, especially the first and the second one. Okay. But the brother did a video speaking about the Corleone family and how there are similarities between the Corleone family and the tribe of Levi, one of the tribes from the 12 tribes of Israel. Now, I want to make a clarification and a disclaimer. The Corleone family are a fictional family. They are not real. The Godfather movie series was simply motion picture. Okay, it was simply entertainment. The Corleone family, they are not an actual family. It's fiction. Okay, but they draw traditions and particular characteristics, mannerisms from actual Sicilian families. Now, we're going to get into this, man. I pray this is going to be edifying, Lord willing. Okay. Lord willing, this will be edifying. Now, let's deal with this man here, Al Pacino, because I looked up his background. Okay. I typed in, is Al Pacino Sicilian? Now, although the Corleone family is not a real family, once again, that's fiction. It's fictional. Al Pacino, who played Michael, all right, the actual man, Al Pacino himself, he is of Sicilian descent. Now this is on, the AI overview, but you could look this up anywhere. All right. But it says, yes, Al Pacino is of Sicilian descent. All right. His parents were both Sicilian American. All right. Now you keep reading, they pretty much speak about The Godfather, because that was a very popular movie. All right, now this is on goldenglobes.com. Al Pacino was born in East Harlem, New York, to Sicilian American parents. In America, most everybody who's Italian is half Italian except me. I'm all Italian. Well, he's Sicilian. He has said, I'm mostly Sicilian, and I have a little bit of Neop Neapolitan in me, or Neapolitan. But nonetheless, he's Sicilian, man. You know? And why am I speaking on Sicilians? Because you're going to have Israelites coming looking like everyone. You know? There's going to be Israelites that look like the other nations, man. Which when you look at a lot of Sicilians, they have straight up, dominant features. Hey, look at this woman right here, This doesn't look like a Edomite woman. She favors a northern tribe. Here's an old photo, but this woman, she's of Sicilian descent. Okay? She's of Sicilian origin, you could say. Which the Sicilians, they're of Israelite origin, really. Look at these photographs, man. Early 1900s. Okay, now let's dig into something else. Now the brother, Captain Abaya, he made the point on how, the Corleone family, which once again, to make the disclaimer, they're a fictional family, but the brother was saying how they are Levites, all right. But I want to make a point real quick. Dealing with the southern kingdom of Israel, Judah, Benjamin, Levi, there could definitely be a lot of Levites among the Sicilian people. Although once again, dealing with the Godfather movie series, the Corleone family, that's a fictional family. But when you deal with reality, because we're supposed to deal with reality, all right. As the true teachers of the Bible, as the men of the Lord, we deal with reality. There would have to be a dispersion of Levites among the Sicilian people. Now I typed this in on Google. Do Sicilians have African ancestry? Now we know we're not African. That's another disclaimer. We are not African. We're Israelites. But you have to type this in to get information, and that's why I did it. Yes, Sicilians do have some African ancestry, primarily from North Africa. Now, when it says African, you can replace that word with Israelite. Sicilians have Israelite ancestry, okay? Now, it says primarily from North Africa because Sicily was invaded. And we're going to get into that in a minute. Sicily was invaded by the Moors, All right, now let's read a little bit of this. It says, this is due to historical migrations and genetic flows into the region, with studies indicating a small but detectable amount of sub-Saharan African ancestry. Once again, Israelite ancestry. Now it says, while the dominant genetic heritage of Sicily is European, and that's a damn lie. Because like the one guy said on the movie True Romance, when the Moors invaded Sicily, they did a lot of to those Sicilian women. They did a lot of to those Sicilian women. Okay. And they changed the genetic pool forever. And I want to play the clip for you, but I don't want YouTube to, hit this video up for copyright. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes they'll let you play the video. Sometimes they act funny about it. But nonetheless, what that man said in the movie True Romance is true. And he talked to the guy before the guy killed him. He was like, you're part eggplant. Eggplant, that's a byword a lot of Sicilians use for Negroes in America. But y'all eggs, y'all eggs is eggplant too. You so-called Sicilians, you're eggplant too, because your ancestry dates back to the Moors, like that guy brought out in the movie True Romance. Okay. Now, while the dominant genetic heritage of Sicily is European, once again, that's not true. Particularly influenced by ancient Greek and Italic populations. And that's as far as the heritage, their way of living, you know. The North African influence is a notable factor. And you can look at their features. A lot of them have dominant features. Okay. But yeah, let's get into this, man. All right. And as I made the point, when you deal with the Godfather movie series, the Corleone family, once again, they're not a real family, but they're based off of real families. Now let's read this. Okay. Now it says under AI overview, the fictional Corleone family in The Godfather is inspired by the real life New York Mafia's five families, particularly the Genovese and Bonanno families. And Salakia, if I'm mispronouncing the names, I don't have the best Italian. Now it says, while not a direct one-to-one representation, the Corleones' structure, power dynamics, and criminal activities draw heavily from the history and operations of these powerful mafia organizations. Well, why am I speaking on this? Because dealing with Sicilians themselves, and it doesn't have to be Sicilians that are involved in the mafia or anything like that, but the actual crime families. When you look at the history of America, and in particular in New York, and you deal with those five families, they were of Sicilian origin, a lot of them. Okay, but once again, it's not about, I'm not making this about Sicilians that are necessarily involved in crime. All right, but just Sicilians in general. Okay, the Sicilian people in general would have to be Israelites. I'll say the bulk of them. Most of them would have to be Israelites, man. Let's read a little bit of this right here, because there's a lot of history, okay? And we'd be here all day getting every single detail. All right, now this is on medium.com. The little known invasion of Italy. How the Abbasids, or how the Abbasids changed the course of history. The year is 827. The Italian peninsula is about to undergo a major change, one that will probably change the course of history forever. All right, so let's read a little bit of this. The term Moor, which is the term we now use to describe the North African forces that invaded southern Italy in the 800s, speaking of 800 AD, that era, had no real meaning at the time. Unlike other terms used to describe different ethnic groups, the term Moor does not describe a specific group or ethnicity. And yes, it does. Yes, it does. Because the word Moor, it simply means black. Okay? And these are Israelites that converted to Islam. Now it says, but rather a collection of people ranging from Arabs, Berbers, and even Muslim Europeans. And that's a damn lie. Now, I'm going to say this. There were a mixture of them. I won't take away from historical facts. You know, there could have been some, Ishmael among them, but as a collective, these people were Israelites, man. And they were Israelites that converted to Islam. Once again, you look up the word Moor. Moor simply means black. Okay? Thus, it is important to specify that when we refer to the Moor invasion of southern Italy, we are talking about the Abbasid Caliphate, more specifically, the Aghlabid dynasty. And when you get into this, man, there's basically different invasions, man, or different sieges. That's the word I was looking for. Different sieges taking place. Okay, they even have a picture for you there. And there's a saying, to the victor belongs the spoils. The spoils, in this sense, the women of Sicily. Because a lot of those women, before Sicily was invaded, a lot of those women, or a lot of the people of Sicily in general, they were a lot of them were of what you would call European descent. Which European, that's a different word than what people think it is. All right. But a lot of them, they were Edomites up in Sicily. But after the Moors invaded Sicily, that changed, because they killed a lot of the men and they took the women. Okay? And they impregnated the women. Thus, the offspring came out different. And this is history that's not so much talked about, man. Although people know about it. Okay? Which, you can read the rest of this on your own. I didn't want this to be a very long video. All right? But there's a lot of history, man. When you go into the siege of these different parts of Italy, and specifically Sicily, because they mentioned Sicily in here, actually. I just passed by it. Here we go. Yeah, let's read this. Early years 827 to 31, although the North African populace had been raiding the coast of Sicily for a few centuries by this time, it had never attempted an invasion, and the Roman emperors had always been confident in their control over the region. How did Sicily go from Byzantine hands to the Aghlabids then, you might be asking yourself? Which we speak about the Byzantine Empire. Those were Israelites too. So even by this time, with Sicily being invaded, there was still a lot of Israelites already there in Sicily. But yeah, that's really the point, man. And once again, they're speaking about the different battles in different parts of Sicily, them sieging various parts of Sicily. Syracuse in particular. Say it was the capital of Sicily. Okay? But once again, what happens during war? The men take the women as spoil, and they impregnate the women with their seed. And you're going to get offspring of those men, offspring of the victors, okay? So that's really it, man. Now, back to these images here. Let me type in dark Sicilians, and they're still not gonna show you very much, you know. But this is history you should know, man. Okay? Because if you have a Southern Italian, a Sicilian coming up to your camp, you don't want to call yourself turning him away thinking that he's a white boy, thinking he's an Edomite, you know? Are Sicilians partly black? The answer is yes. Which, you know, Marlon Brando, he did a very good job playing the Godfather, but once again, we know that the Corleone family is not a real family. But it does inspire you to do some digging into the people of Sicily, you know? And look at that chick right here, man. Hey, you can tell this is an Israelite, you know? It's a nigga woman with lighter skin. Tell she got a little attitude to her, you know? But yeah, the information is plain, man. You know? All right, let's get a few scriptures. And I pray that this has been edifying, Lord willing. James chapter 1, verse 1. James, a servant of Yahweh and of the Lord Yahweh Shah HaMashiach, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greeting. Yes, so Israelites are scattered all over the world. Therefore, we're going to come looking like all the other nations. You know? Let's see. Maybe might be the 24th chapter. Yep. All right, this is the book of Numbers, chapter 24 and verse 5. How goodly are thy tents, O Jacob, and thy tabernacles, O Israel. As the valleys are they spread forth, as gardens by the rivers' side, as the trees of line aloes, which the Lord hath planted, and as cedar trees beside the waters. He shall pour the water out of his buckets, and his seed shall be in many waters. Now you go to the book of Revelation, the 17th chapter. It speaks about the waters where America sits are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. So waters represent people. It represents nations of people. So you read his prophecy right here in Numbers 24 and 7. He shall pour the water out of his buckets, the water referring to his semen. Okay? His semen, you know? He shall pour the water out of his buckets, and his seed shall be in many waters. His seed shall be in many nations. James 1 and 1. It was scattered abroad. And we're going to look like everyone because we were scattered among them. All right? And his king shall be higher than Agag, and his kingdom shall be exalted, right? Which ultimately is going to be Yahweh Shai. He's going to rule higher than Amalek, because right now the Amalekites, these little hat people, they're ruling the earth, okay? But our Lord is coming back in power, man. Our Lord Yahweh Shai, he's going to conquer the earth, and he's going to take it from Amalek. All right, so with that, I pray I pray that this was edifying, Lord willing. Okay, Lord willing, this was edifying, man. You know, and there's more proof we can get into, but I believe we could leave it there. I tell you what, I have this book here, Nature Knows No Color Line. I can get a little bit out this book. Just bear with me. And Lord will, you can see this, all right? And this is the book, Nature Knows No Color Line by J.A. Rogers. All right. Now this is on page 121. And let's see here. Because the topic is Italy, you know, Israelites in Italy. Now, reading this highlighted portion, it says Negroes became favorites and jesters at the Italian courts. Right. And this is dating back what they have for you here. Let's read this. Brantome mentions one at the court of Alfonso I, King of Naples, and Aragon in 1450. Right, so you got to think about the invasion of Italy around 827 AD, but also, you know, that there were different Israelites still being brought to Italy up until the 1400s, man. You know? Now it says King Rene of Sicily had several Negro favorites and jesters. A jester is a comedian, you know, and you know Jake can make plenty of jokes. You know, Jake make you laugh. All right. But you know what? I'm sure these kings, they love these Jakes so much. They love these Israelite comedians so much. They'll probably set them up, you know? These blacks were sometimes crowned kings in jest at court festivals. In jest meaning as a joke. But you know, really, we are the kings, man. You know? Now, let's get something else. All right. Now, it says whites and blacks in Italy. We're just going to get to the main points, okay? All right. Now, it says, as a result of the importation of Negroes, many Southern Italians and Greeks in the 18th century were so dark that when Napoleon ran short of Negroes for his black brigades, he used them. Yeah, so he would use a lot of Southern Italians and Greeks when he ran short on Negroes to fight. Because a lot of Southern Italians and even Greeks are Israelites themselves. Now it says Sicilians were then much darker than now. Right. But once again, you got to think back to the invasion of Italy. You know, we went into that, man. You know? Let's read this here. American Negro soldiers in the Second World War had a number of children, had a number of sons, and even daughters too. But children, you look that word up, it basically goes back to sons in the Hebrew. But, you know, children itself is a made up word. Okay. But let's read this again. American Negro soldiers in the Second World War had a number of children by Italian women. Had a number of them. You know? And I'll go back into this book as well, man, because it speaks about the different Jews of Spain and Portugal. You know, how they are of Negro descent. You know? But yeah, man, I believe the point is there. You know? Italians, specifically Southern Italians, people of Sicily, are in fact Israelites, man. You know, of the various tribes, in particular, Judah, Benjamin, Levi. And I definitely believe Levi. A lot of people of Sicily are of the tribe of Levi. So with that, we're going to give all praises to our power. Our Father, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. And, you know, to clarify again, when you watch the Godfather movie series, the Corleone family as well as the other families in the movie, you know, they're based off of real families, but in actuality, you know, they're fictional. You know, they're based off of certain nonfiction people or families, but those families in the movie itself, like the Corleone family, etc., they're not real. You know, but this inspires some videos, man. You know, the video the brother Captain Abaya did, and the video I'm doing now. You know, the people of Sicily are Israelites, man, and the proof is irrefutable. It is irrefutable. So with that, I want to say all praises to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, double honor to our elder apostles and elder bishops, great millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect of Israel. Shalom.